Hello. Okay. How's everybody doing today? Excellent. Let's see, we got some friends in the room today. How's everybody doing? Martin and Jody Joy, Commander Joy herself is here. Thank you very much. And Tech Help and um Abramo, right? I think that's your name. It says Tio in there, but I'm pretty sure your name's Abramo, right? Hopefully everyone's doing well today. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun. I do have to say thank you for Jody Joy because she was the inspiration for today's live stream. Actually, what we're gonna do is I got a hat on today, so we're gonna illuminate myself a little bit. Um, so yeah, I really want. Hey, we got Rian. How's it going? Um, Today I really want to make it kind of a little more interactive. If you have questions, I'm gonna try to definitely watch the chat room and maybe field some questions as I go. It is a solo show. It is just me. You guys are lucky you get me for like a whole however long we go, right? So today we're going to be talking about social media, right? And hold on one second. Should take a drink of water before I started. Um, hey, Brent and Wolf are here. Cool. Um, so we're going to be talking about social media and what we need to do to kind of integrate that into our websites, into our businesses. What do we need to do? What do you not want to do? Right. So we're going to be going over all the ins and outs of all of that. So to start off with, we're going to start off kind of on the technical side, on the maybe the metadata, all the fun metadata stuff and all that jazz, and kind of talk about how to implement a lot of that stuff. Okay. So let's just dive in. Just as normally when I do lives, I have some rough notes of things I want to cover, but I'm doing all of this live with you guys as well. Hey, Gunter and Pierre, thanks for joining. Glad to see you, Pierre. Thanks for coming today. So let me go ahead and start screen share really quick. I don't even have RapidWeaver running yet, so um, actually, um, okay, so I actually have a special beta of a software running, and just give me a second because it's not yet released to the world, so I should be nice and not have it running during my entire live stream today. So just give me a second here to install an older version. Um, Wink, if you guys know what that is. Cool. Good thing I thought about that before I shared my screen and let all the secrets out. Okay, so let's go ahead and start RapidWeaver, and let me share my screen here. Okay, here is, of course, right when I go, my dogs start barking. Fun times. Okay, there we go. We got RapidWeaver up, and it's over here. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to start a brand spanking new project, and we'll add a blank stacks page. Okay, so social media, right? First thing we want to do when we're working with social media in our websites is we want to make our websites accessible to social media first. I think that's step one. That's a great place to start. And we do that through meta tags. Now, luckily, RapidWeaver itself, RapidWeaver 8, can do a lot of that for you now automatically. So it's really, really nice. And it's done that by default, right? So here I just have a straight up page. Let's just call this, we'll call this home page, right? If we go to the RapidWeaver's general preferences, let me go ahead and just resize this window a little bit so everybody can see it. You'll notice here inside the RapidWeaver's general preferences project, we can generate social tags. Okay, so that is checked by default, and that will then utilize a lot of the data that we already populate inside of our projects for our social tags. Okay. So here we have my website, for the title, the default slogan, so on and so forth. If you have a Twitter account, like I have Joe Workman, you would put that in there. Okay. And then in the home page, so now on the pages, if we go to the page inspectors, if we go over to in the page inspector, you'll see this little tag one. Okay. If you look in here, this is where all of our kind of our meta tags are done, right? So here we can put in a page description, my description, and then you can use robots, which that's more SEO purposes. But and then here is our social tags. So here we could put the title of our page, and I'll give you an example of what this actually does for us in a second. So we would put like this in my page, and the description. Now, if you leave this description blank, I'm pretty certain it actually pulls your page description. Okay. But it's important if you want to have a specific, different description for social, then you can type that out here. And then this description up here is mostly for SEO purposes. And then you can drag and drop an image. So you can add an image from the resources, or you can just drag it directly into there. So, you could be like, here is my image. And that's the image that shows up for social. Now, what does all this do, Joe? Like what does that mean? Here's a perfect example. So if we go to, let me bring up a website really quick. And if we go to, let's just go to Weaverspace. Now, this applies to more than just, oops, I didn't want that. I wanted the community, actually. These social tags are used for so much more than just plain social media. So like if you're posting the URL, here's actually kind of a bad example because this particular URL for the image is non-HTTPS, so my site blocks it. But this data here that we see, the title, this description, and an image, that all comes from our social tags, right? So it gives us a much richer, when someone shares our URLs on anywhere across the web, as long as that service supports social media such as this, we'll see fancy things like that, right? Later, let's just go over Twitter, right? Why not? I'm assuming we're going to see a bunch of URLs. I'm not even logged into Twitter. Come on. Twitter. Log in. Okay, so if we look at Twitter, if we just kind of scroll down, this is my Twitter feed. Hopefully we'll find somewhere that someone here. Okay, here's a perfect example. This is kind of an advertisement, but it shows us what we could do, right? So TD Ameritrade posted a URL. That URL contained an image, it contained the title, and it contained a description, right? So that's the sort of nice little cards that we can see when you post URL. Here's another perfect example, right? Although I think this one's a retweet. There's a video. Here's another one, right? So someone posted this URL. It has a nice image. It has the title and the description. Okay. So if you don't want something just to show up as just a plain boring link, you want it to be a much richer experience when people are using these platforms. Here's another example, right? Where we see the description, the URL, and an image, right? These things look nicer. And when someone sees this, they're more likely to click on it rather than just seeing a plain boring URL, right? I don't know about you, but whenever I'm scrolling through my social media feed, if I just see just a URL, it doesn't catch my eye. But when I see potentially a nice pretty image and I could see some title and context, a description about what that is, I might be more inclined to click on it, right? So that's what all of these tags do. And they support, again, not just Twitter or it's Facebook, but they kind of use some standard tags that other things, even like things like the Weaverspace community, leverage as well to show us and give us a much more rich experience. Okay, so pretty simple. Okay, getting back to this, all we need to do is we need to fill in this. Now, the not so nice part that you probably guys are all going to want to, ask is, well, do I need to have these, specific tags for every single page? Well, so you can The quick answer is yes. Okay. If you want people to share your pages, you're going to have to go into your social tags for every page and drag and drop an image. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't tested the title. I think if you don't define a title or a description or an image, it pulls your site logo or your site banner. Okay. And it try to use the site title. I think maybe try to use the slogan. I'm not 100% sure. I'll show you a different way on how I do it. I don't use RapidWeaver's default things for social tag generation. I'll show you what I use in a minute. But I did want to show you that it is possible using social tags in RapidWeaver, using RapidWeaver's built-in thing. And it is recommended that you kind of manage these things on a page-by-page basis, because even for SEO, now I know a lot of you guys aren't going to want to hear this, but even like page descriptions and page titles, right? Browser titles, page titles, those should be unique for every single page on your site, because every page is different, right? So in theory, for SEO purpose and for sharing on social media, every page is different. You should be describing what that page is. Does that make sense? So we could be lazy and start with some defaults, but to really get the best experience, you're going to make sure things like description and your titles and stuff like that, they're actually unique for every single page. Sorry, I know that's going to bust a lot of people's buttons. And I see some people already suggesting stuff in the chat room. I'm getting there. Okay, so what's a better way of managing all these social media tags outside of the default RapidWeaver ones? Okay, so what we're going to do is, if we're going to be using these things, I'm going to be showing you a tool called SEO Helper. And that ships with Foundation. The current version of Foundation ships with a tool called SEO Helper. And it's a very good tool. And I'm actually going to give you a quick spoiler, a little sneak peek today, because I have version 2 of SEO Helper that is going to be a standalone stack. It'll be shipped outside of Foundation. And SEO Helper 2 should ship later this month. So I'll give you a sneak peek of what both do. They're both very similar. SEO Helper, the current version, it's only shipped if you have Foundation. And it allows you to do all the Facebook tags and all that jazz. Okay. So SEO Helper is what I recommend. It's what I use. So what we're gonna do is, actually, I'll just delete this. We'll use the new standalone SEO Helper 2 from now on. In this demo, a lot of the functionality is very similar. Version 2 has some more updated meta tags and some more options that have come along over the years since the version 1 shipped inside Foundation. Okay, but the premise between these two stacks is identical. So SEO Helper allows us to add meta tags to our pages. So here inside, this called Facebook Open Graph. Now, you should know that Facebook, these meta tags are used by Facebook, but Facebook actually did a good thing here. They created this standard called Open Graph. And here, if we go to, let me open up Safari again. If we do ogp.me, okay, this is the standard web page that, so basically Facebook created this as a standard. It's called Open Graph, and this is exactly what Facebook uses. And if you see, like, for example, Weaverspace, I integrate with social media tags, it's because I'm leveraging this standard, this Open Graph standard. And a lot of other websites are now utilizing this Open Graph. So if you implement Open Graph, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Okay. Now you can go ahead and read all this boring stuff about Open Graph and all the various tags that you can use. And you could manually create all of these tags as well. I should note that if you wanted to manually, copy and paste these tags, you could go into your header on your page and you could paste them in here, and you can manage them all you want manually. But you could do all of that, or you could just use SEO Helper, because I've done all the work for you. Okay. So here inside SEO Helper, we have Facebook Open Graph, because this is what Facebook and the Open Graph standard have. And what you need to do in here is you can configure all kinds of stuff. So is this page a book? Is it a website? Is it a profile? Is it a product, right? So is this potentially a product page, right? And then you give it the title, Here for the image URL, it has to be the full URL to an image. Okay, you cannot drag and drop an image. It has to be the full URL to an image. Now you could potentially use RapidWeaver's resources, and then you can like copy the URL to the published resource, but this has to be the full URL to an image. Okay, and then this is the URL to the actual web page that you're on, or the web page that you want the Open Graph tags to point to. Okay, you could potentially just point to your homepage on everything if you wanted, but you probably want to put in the URL to this page. Okay. Next is optional fields. There's a ton of optional fields. So do you want locale? By default, it's set to auto. You can have a full description, the name of your website. If you have a video or audio file tied to this, again, these are like the image. They need to be full-blown URLs. Okay. And then assuming you have a Facebook account, you don't have to, but if you have a Facebook account, you go ahead and type in your admin, your actual username in Facebook. That allows you to... So when you see these particular things on Facebook, and Facebook sees that it's you, you have some additional features to kind of see some metrics and whatnot about all of this data. And then the app ID. So if you go into Facebook's developer tools, you can create an app ID, which then allows you to see things like charts and graphs and all that stuff about how people are sharing stuff on Facebook for your URLs. Those are optional as well. Facebook really wants you to have that stuff because they want to be able to track you as a site owner as well, but they're not required. Okay. Next up is if we add in here, there's a bunch of other stuff. So we have Twitter. The default one is just called a summary card. Now what's nice in here in SEO Helper 2, we can just say use Open Graph. And what will happen is Twitter will use the Open Graph for all the default stuff. And then there's a couple Twitter specific tags, such as username. So you'd put in, like, I have Joe Workman. Okay. And then Twitter supports an alt image or an alt tag for the image that you supply. So that's for kind of for SEO purposes. If you want to, provide a description for the image, you could do that as well. Okay. Now SEO Helper has a lot of other tags. I'm not going to dive into it here. But those are the ones for social media specifically. Now, Twitter also has something specific for an app. So if you actually have an iOS app or an Android app, there's a lot of specific metadata about that you can add, as well as a player card. So if this particular page is maybe, a video, a specific video that you want to tag, or an MP3 or something like that, mostly it's for video. But if you had a particular video, you would basically put the iframe URL into there, and then you'd get a nice player when this particular URL is posted onto Twitter. But the basics here are you're going to have Open Graph and a Twitter summary card. Now, again, let me stress, it doesn't matter. Or actually, let me switch to kind of focus on this. I just want to say it really doesn't matter if you're not on Facebook or if you're not on Twitter. Doesn't matter. You should have this data. I didn't talk anything about creating a Facebook account yet or creating a Twitter account. Okay. This is all about your site being shared by other people and enriching that experience to entice them to click to come to your website. That's what all this is about. It's about giving those social networks more data about your website. So when that other people share your website, maybe you have a great blog post or you have a cool product they want to share on Twitter with their friends or on Facebook with their friends or whatever other community, Weaver Space, right? Whenever they share those URLs, you're going to be giving those people that are seeing those URLs on all those various networks a much richer experience. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys are seeing that, in the chat room, if you're understanding that. It's all about providing value to people you don't know yet, right? Because you want them. You want those visitors. You want to entice them to click on those links so that they come to your website, so they see your content, so they purchase your products. Because isn't that why we have websites, right? Hopefully that's making sense. Again, none of this, you have to have a Facebook account or a Twitter account. It doesn't mean you have to be active. This is all about enabling your website to be, I used a term previously and it's drawn a blank. It's all about enabling your website to have a richer experience on social media. Okay, let's get back to the demo. Okay. There we go. That is SEO Helper. Now some tools that I think we need to also talk about. Okay. Oh, another thing I should mention. So if you are using SEO Helper, okay, I just want to mention that you have to go into general settings, turn off generate social tags, okay, and make sure if you're in here, if you turn it off on the project wide, it'll automatically turn it off on the page level, okay, but you're going to want to make sure that is turned on or turned off. Sorry, turned off. Now, SEO Helper version 2 has a really cool duplicate meta tag checker. So if I were to preview this page, it'll actually tell me whether or not I have duplicate meta tags. And then you could potentially turn off, it'll remind you to go turn this off if you're using it. Now, with SEO Helper, since it is a stack, you can then partial this. And if you want to have the same meta tags across multiple pages, you can just partial this and have that partial on many pages, and you're good to go, right? So just to let you know how that works identical to any other stack. You can just partial that and use it across all of your pages, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now there's a few really good tools out there. A lot of times people will say, actually, before I jump into that, one more thing is Total CMS. I see a couple people mentioning that inside the chat room. Is if you wanted to manage a lot of this data with Total CMS, you could just put in the actual CMS macros either inside SEO Helper or inside RapidWeaver as well. Okay, so for SEO Helper, you could just put CMS data, I don't know, social title maybe is the name of the thing. Okay. So, this is a Total CMS macro. I'm not going to dive into what the macros are. If you're a Total CMS user, hopefully you know what those are. And basically, by using these macros inside the settings here, you can now basically manage your social tags from the CMS, right? And you can do the same thing here. So if you're not using SEO Helper, you can go into, I got to turn it back on, right? But you can go into the meta tags and you can put in the CMS macros in there as well. Okay, that will work 100%. So if you want to use Total CMS to manage the content of your social macros, you can do that, right? And what's great about the macros is you can reuse that macro in multiple places so that you can have, the same data in, multiple locations, right? So really good stuff there. Is it possible to automate these social meta tags for SEO Helper for a blog post? Okay, so Total CMS, if you are using Total CMS, the Total CMS blog stack will automatically do that for you. So if you are using Total CMS, don't put SEO Helper on the blog post page because inside the blog post stack here, let's go ahead and we're going to diverge a little bit. Let's go to CMS. Blog post. So inside the blog post stack, down here in the blog post stack for meta tags, you can turn on Facebook and Twitter and Google tags, right? So that now if you're not using Total CMS and you're using a different blog, you're going to have to talk to the developers of those blogs to see what they're doing with social tags and SEO and stuff like that. For Total CMS, on the blog post page, now you could have potentially use SEO Helper for other meta tags on the page, right? But for all the social Facebook and Twitter tags and the page title and page description, you could do that directly with the blog post stack and it will do that for you. Okay. But if you're using anything else like structured data or something like that, you can still use SEO Helper on the page in conjunction with the blog post. Okay. So Jody, if you're using SEO Helper, does it pull the image from RW's social tags? No. Jody, if you're using SEO Helper, you have to go all in with SEO Helper. right? So inside here, let me get Open Graph. So inside Open Graph settings, you have to supply an image URL. So it's either you use SEO Helper or you use RapidWeaver's social tags. Okay. SEO Helper has a lot more data. It's more rich. It gives you more control, but you're going to have to put in the full image URL, right? And if you're using the resources, right? So here's like RapidWeaver's resources. You can just say copy URL from the resources. It says my website. Okay. I don't have a website domain configured on this project, right? But you would just right click inside the resources, say copy URL. Okay. Here, let me just do that really quick. So RapidWeaver is not. Okay, let's just do that. Back to resources. Now I have a URL. We copy URL. Okay. And then here I can then paste that in. Okay. So if you don't want to warehouse the image yourself, which is basically, upload it to your web server, you can upload the image into resources, and then just say copy URL, and then you can paste the URL directly into here. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But again, it's all or nothing. You either use SEO Helper or you use RapidWeaver social tags. You probably maybe use some sort of mixture. I don't recommend it though. I would say all or nothing. Just be safe. Okay. So now a common request that I get is, Joe, I have my social tags and I'm not seeing the image that I should be seeing inside Facebook, or Facebook isn't doing the correct thing, right? What do we need to do? So Facebook has a really cool, I just launched the wrong app. I don't need Affinity Designer. Quit. Okay. Bring up Safari again. Always opens on my other display. Okay. And then inside here, I'm just going to, I don't even know the URL off the top of my head. I'm just going to say Facebook debugger. Okay. So if you Google Facebook debugger, that's how I get to it every single time. Here it is, developers.facebook.com/tools/debug. Okay. And what you can do is you could put your URL directly in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in joeworkman.net. I have not tested this. Let's hit debug. And there could be some issues because, oh, look, boom. There is a warning. So I republished joeworkman.net a couple of weeks ago. And as you probably know, if you checked it out. But what I did is I did not put in an OG image on that site, right? So here is Facebook is telling me, hey, this property doesn't exist, right? So if I'm going to share this, you're going to have some issues, right? There's also some, let's see, the following are missing. Oh, I don't have, I don't have Open Graph on the new web page at all. Here, let's go ahead and put in here. www.weavers.space. Let's do one of my newer stacks. Let's do Rapid Weaver /stacks/ we'll do seams. How about seams? So we'll hit debug on that. And there it goes. So here we go. I put in the URL to my seam stack. And if we notice, there were no errors. And it tells me the time it was scraped, the response code, and it tells me the URL, the URL, the image that it found. And this gives you a little preview of what it's going to look like on Facebook, right? So it gives me the domain, the title. Here's a description, right? Here's all the tags that it found. Okay. Now, a lot of times, some common errors here. So we saw with joework.net is I didn't have any Open Graph tags at all. That was a major oversight on my part, right? But another thing is, a lot of times if there's multiple OG tags, right? Because maybe you're using SEO Helper and RapidWeaver, right? It could confuse Facebook and it doesn't know which one to pick. So a lot of times if you're getting data that doesn't look quite right, go here and it will tell you. So it'll tell you whether or not it found multiple OG image tags or multiple OG title tags and so on and so forth, right? This Facebook debugger is very useful. So good stuff there. Hopefully that'll help you guys out. I get a lot of this with blog. Maybe someone forget to turn on in the Total CMS blog. They forgot to turn on the meta tags for blog posts, and then they don't see the data that they would expect. Because if Facebook, like if I go put joeworkman.net back, right? Let's hit debug. So if we notice here, it has an image and it has a title and whatnot. So what's happening is, even though Facebook here it doesn't find a specific OG URL, OG type, OG title. Here, let's go to joeworkman.net right now. Okay. So here's the new joeworkman.net, right? And as you see, I have an image on the page. I have the browser title is set to Joe Workman, and I have some text on the page, right? Now, if we look at this, we'll see that even though I didn't supply an OG URL specifically in the meta, Facebook found an image. So it decided, well, I'm going to use this image because that's the only image I found on the page, right? And I didn't supply an OG title tag, but Facebook says, oh, hey, look, you supply, I see the browser title set to Joe Workman. I'm going to use that, right? And here it says, I think it pulled from the text here, right? Let's see. I'm an entrepreneur, Joe Workman, an entrepreneur husband. Yeah, look, see, it pulled in that data, right? And it kind of guessed at what it could do. But we don't want to allow Facebook to guess, right? We want to give it specific data. So that's why we give out, and we have this Open Graph meta tags. So this Facebook debug tool is gold. Now, next up is a cool tool that I have to give full credit to Paul Russum, as most of you probably know. And this tool, actually, hold on one second. Let me just get the URL. Let me just do Weaver space, wrap Weaver stacks, seams. Okay, let me just copy that URL. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the Seams product page. And what this tool here does is it analyzes the data, and then it shows you what your posts are going to look like on every platform. So right now, this is what it's going to look like on Facebook. If I go to Twitter, this is what it's going to look like on Twitter. If I go over here, this is what it's going to look like if someone posted it to Slack. And if we go to LinkedIn, this is what it's going to look like on LinkedIn, right? So it really gives us a great, tool to kind of visualize what things will look like. Okay. Now you might think, Joe, this is not looking too great, right? I mean, on Twitter, this image gets cut off. How can I make that better? Now, Facebook, it looks okay. On Slack, it looks okay. It's a little tiny over here, but it could be better maybe. And then LinkedIn, that looks pretty good too. So what can we do with these images, right? So this is a great tool. I'll make sure it's called, here, I'll put it in the chat room right now so everyone kind of play with it. Okay, so I put that in the chat room so you can have access to it. It is social.pilcro.com, pilcro.com. It's a cool little free tool. Again, you just put in your URL and it gives you a preview of what your URL is going to look like on every platform, or the major platforms. So, but we have this issue with the images. Joe, what do we need to do? How do we fix that? How do we resolve that? So sadly, like mostly Twitter and Facebook, right? Those are kind of the big ones. They have different sizes, kind of different recommendations for images. And what do we need to do for that, right? So there are some tools. Let's see. I should have searched this before. Social image sizes. Okay. So here, I just searched for social image sizes. And here's a blog post that I assume is going to tell us the sizes that we need for every single social network, right? So if you have a Facebook image, Facebook has a lot of images, right? So you have your social profile, so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot of different image sizes. Here's the shared image is 1200 by 630. That's the OG image. Okay, for Facebook, that's the recommended size, but Facebook does kind of, curtail itself as long as it's a landscaped image. I've seen that it works pretty well. Okay. So search for that. This blog post looks very thorough. Here's some Twitter image sizes. So obviously your profile is going to be a square header. So here in photos in stream, it recommends 440 by 220, so a 2-to-1 ratio. So yeah, take a look at this. Now there are some tools to help us automate that. Okay, and let's look at what some of those are. I'm not going to dive out. Now, the first one, I'll tell you the one that I use, okay, or that I recently started using, is called Relay That. I'm not going to, we don't have time to really dive in. I'm not going to give you a tutorial about how to use it. It's not free though. It is pricey. I think there is a free plan maybe. No, it's $25 a month, flat out. Every now and then you might see a deal once a year or so, to get it for cheaper. But what's really cool is you can create your social images here, and it will automatically create all the various sizes that you need based on what social networks you want and what you want to do with that image. So this is a really, really cool platform. It is web only, so it's not like a local Mac app. Okay, it is web only. And but yeah, it's really cool. Now there is a large competitor to it called Canva. It's very popular. Canva is a little cheaper. It doesn't have all the features that Relay That has, but essentially it does a very similar thing, right? So it can create kind of dynamic things. I think Canva is $12 a month, and Canva they're like VC backed and whatnot. So they actually have an iOS app, which is I wish Relay That had that. I think it would be fun to kind of play around with this stuff on iOS. But Relay That does have more export options and some other things. But Canva is a great tool, and Canva actually has a free account. You can actually log in for free and create some stuff. You can't export to multiple sizes until you pay, but you can kind of play around with the tool. It is a good one. So what are some other options for like local work? So I recently heard on a podcast, I use this app called Retro Batch. Oops. Hold on. Retro Batch. It's if you ever use an app called Acorn. It's from the makers of Acorn. It's kind of like a competitor to like Pixelmator or Affinity and all that jazz, right? But Retro Batch is a image automation tool, and I haven't used it for this yet. I just literally yesterday someone gave me the idea of using this for it. But it's an image workflow. So let's see. For example, what you could do is maybe I should create a new one so we can. That's fine. I'll just leave this. So here, this is one of their default ones where basically it removes GPS data from images so that when you're posting it on social, it doesn't have GPS data, right? But we can modify this and we can say crop, right? And then you can crop based on an aspect ratio or a frame, and you can crop square, and you can add multiple crops, right? So here, if we let's say right images there. Oops. This goes here. It is kind of funky. Here, let's go there. There we go. Okay. Well, you can play around with it. But basically, what you can do is you can write images. You can crop the image multiple times, right? So you can create different sizes of images. And basically, potentially, if you have an image, you can, if you were smart when you originally created the image, you could crop it different ways and resize them and create multiple images based on the one, right? So again, I don't have any specific example. I haven't actually done that. I've heard people that have done it. So maybe if we Googled around, we could come up with that. But I literally just heard about this last night and was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And I use RetroBatch for a few things. And I'm trying to learn other places where I can use it, but it's it's a really cool image optimization tool, image automation tool. You can use it to automate and do all kinds of interesting stuff. So check out Retro Batch. Rich was wondering about Instagram. So Instagram is obviously you can do relay that in Canva and things of that nature. So Relay that in Canva can export to Instagram specific sizes. Instagram has a preferred landscape size, and obviously square is a big one, right? So you have square, but for social tags, there is no social tags for Instagram because Instagram doesn't really allow you to post URLs to things, right? So they're very strict about that. You can have a URL in like your profile. That's why if you're on Instagram, you probably notice that if you post, you could say, check the link in my profile, right? And so people are using that as a thing, but the URL, it's just the plain simple URL. There is no meta tags that are going to enrich any sort of data that you would get on Instagram. But for Instagram sizes, the same thing goes for Facebook and Twitter. There are preferred sizes. So, I forget the landscape size on Instagram, but there is one. And I know Canva and Relay that support both of those sizes. And obviously square is a very popular size. Before, Instagram used to only be square images, right? So next thing that we should talk about is that so we talked a lot about enabling our websites to work better on social media. That's with images and with all these tags. But there are other ways that we can integrate social media on our web pages as well. Obviously, one way is share buttons. Okay. So you can have all the like buttons that, on various blog posts or on web pages and whatnot, so that, people can like your page or share your page on social networks. I'll be honest. I think maybe that ship has sailed. I'll just be honest here. I personally don't really, if I see a share button on a site, I almost never use it myself, right? But it's a personal preference. I don't know. I guess having the links there to share isn't a bad thing. And to be honest, I haven't really done much analysis whether or not, if I had share buttons, whether or not people clicked them. I used to have them on all of my product pages on joework.net. And I'll be honest, I don't think anyone ever clicked them. But I do have options. So here, let me quickly show some of the options that we have. So here inside for stacks, I have a stack called Like It, right? Which integrates the various Like It buttons from all kinds of social networks. So LinkedIn, Facebook, well, Google Plus is going away, so maybe I should probably remove that. Twitter, right? And Pinterest. Those are the big ones nowadays. So you can add those like buttons to your web pages. The other one is, and again, that's just purely liking a page. It's not sharing it on the social network. It's just liking it. Okay. And then, your page can have a certain number of likes and whatnot, right? The next is called Share It. And I have Share It icons, which is just an icon. There's also Share It circles. I won't do a full demo, but Share It icons, what that does is you can configure it with the various social networks, so LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. And when someone clicks on these, it will actually open up a share sheet. Okay, so we'll open up an actual share box. Some of the drawbacks with share icons, though, is a lot of times iOS browsers will they won't work properly, or it will open up the share sheet and then the user has to log in. It doesn't like open it in the native Twitter app or the native Facebook app, which would be kind of cool, but that's just not possible. So on mobile and on desktop, it will basically, open up a little pop-up window where hopefully if the person is logged in, they could just type in their comments and hit share. Else they'll have to log in and do all that, jumping through hoops to actual share your page. But so yes, so sharing icons are a way of doing it. I think there are other social icons or actual social embeds or Like It stacks. Another way you can do it is another way you can integrate social media on your site is actually embedding the content, right? So embedding the content keep closing Safari. I should just leave it open. So I'm just going to go to the Rapid community. There are a lot more stacks out there than just mine, right? Obviously. So if you want to do things like, my video wall's really cool. If you want to import video from your YouTube or Vimeo pages I think Video Wall is actually the bee's knees. It's really cool, really great stack. But there are other ones. So like if you want to I also have an Instagram one called Quick Picks. It'll integrate your Instagram feed on your webpage. But there are tons of ones. I've heard a lot of great things about Wall, which does a bunch of things. So it integrate a bunch of things onto your page. I think I've heard good things about this Facebook Connect, which can kind of put a Facebook feed right onto your page. So check out these products. It's just I'm just on the Real Mac Rapweaver community. I just searched for social over here on the left. I just filtered by social. You can kind of see everything that's here. Some of these really aren't social, so I'm not sure why some of these are here. But yeah, I've heard Wall is a good one, and this Facebook Connect I've heard is a decent one. And Video Wall, because it's really cool. So check those out. I should say that I'm a little weary of embeddings, relying on social media embeds on your web pages, because I don't know, maybe the embed the embed code changes, or they could notoriously slow down your website if you're using some embed. It really depends, right? You just kind of have to test it. But I think this is my own personal preference that, if you're going to be adding content to your website, it's better if the content and website the content is local to the website, I feel. But there's a lot to be said of, I just post an image to Instagram and it magically pops up on my website. There's a lot of people that like that fluidity or that seamless integration. So I can understand that, right? Again, there are some drawbacks, right? Instagram could change some things and that could break. We've seen that forever. I used to have a bunch of tweet embed stacks and stuff like that, and I no longer have them because Twitter decided to change all their API and broke everything, right? So just be wary. I understand the allure of, embedding Facebook feeds and Twitter feeds and Instagram feeds on your web pages because it's seamless and the integration is nice. But just be wary that they can break. They will break eventually. It's just a matter of when. Those companies are notorious for changing stuff and breaking those things. And they don't really care because they care about their own sites, right? They don't care about, you posting stuff on their site and then embedding it on your own, right? So just a little bit of word of caution on embedding stuff. I could see the allure of the automation, but again, just be leery of that. Okay. Yes. So Dennis, just a follow through. Dennis has an interesting comment in the chat box where a lot of times share buttons on the page aren't used is because a lot of browsers just have them built in now, right? So yes, so Safari on desktop and Safari on mobile, they have share buttons at the bottom, or on the desktop it's at the top, right? And you could share to Twitter or share to Facebook directly from there. So and at that point you can actually share using the native apps. So that is definitely a good reason on why people aren't really using share buttons or like buttons on web pages. So yeah, the share buttons that are built directly into browsers allow you to share directly, the URL. So thanks, Dennis. That's a great point. Okay, my last topic here is, now that we've kind of integrated our sites, what about actually like managing social media feeds and doing all that? Now, I understand this isn't for everybody, and not everybody's going to want to have a Twitter account, and not everybody's going to want to have a Facebook page, or not everyone's going to want to have an Instagram account, and so on and so forth, right? There are benefits to that, right? A lot of it is immeasurable, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of SEO or SEO related to social media is unknown, right? But I think it comes to a point where it's just, if you just keep doing stuff, like eventually it just happens, right? Like if you have a social media presence and you're posting, it's hard to measure the feedback. You can see like maybe direct links, people are linking to your site, but that doesn't always represent how impactful social media is, right? Because someone might enjoy following you, someone might enjoy my Twitter feed, and seeing those updates, but then they just visit my site directly instead of clicking on any links, right? So it's hard to understand the interaction or the value that social media can bring. It's hard to measure, I should say. But it definitely does have an impact. So I do think, I do encourage that you have some sort of social presence. Find out what social platform works best for you. Obviously, video is really big right now. I mean, look, I'm doing a live stream right now on YouTube, right? That's social interaction, right? I think video is definitely a great thing nowadays. I think Instagram for some accounts are going to be amazing, right? We were talking to Jody about a customer on the Hangout on Friday. If you haven't joined Friday Hangouts, by the way, a lot of fun. They're not recorded. What happens in the Hangouts stays on the Hangouts. But anyway, small plug for my Friday Wrap Weaver Hangouts. But Jody had a customer that was, what was he? He was like an internationally acclaimed garden tour expert, right? And he was rather against having a social media account. But imagine like if he had an Instagram account, I think Instagram would be perfect for that. You know, posting pictures of beautiful gardens, posting videos of tours that he's given, right? I mean, as he's giving the tour, he could just have someone record him giving a talk, you know, about some particular flower. I'm not a garden guy at all. So, but like how some garden thing was done, right? And post that to Instagram. It's very little on, you know, effort on his account because he's already giving the talk, right? It's just maybe, you know, recording, or he can even, you know, do it himself, you know, record himself 10 seconds of it, 30 seconds of a talk, to kind of build a social media following. I think Instagram is great for that sort of business. You know, maybe YouTube, I think YouTube is great for mine, right? Where, you know, I have tons of tutorials. I have these live streams now where I'm, you know, every week I'm here every Wednesday giving you guys feedback and, you know, hopefully giving you quality video and a learning experience, right? So I've kind of gone with YouTube, right? I enjoy Twitter as well. I think Twitter is just kind of I personally prefer Twitter. I just think it's fun and it's interactive. I like that experience. Not with the native Twitter clients though, just the same. Buy Tweetbot or Twitterrific, much better. So find a social media network that you like. Now, if you want to, like, I have a Facebook page. I dislike Facebook, but some of my users are on Facebook and they want to be able to follow my updates and they're not on Twitter. So I use some tools. I use a tool called Buffer, and what Buffer does, I think it's like $100 a year. And what I do is I post to Buffer, and then Buffer posts about basically every single one of my stack updates. I post it with Buffer. Buffer will then post it to Twitter. It'll post it to Google Plus, which is going away. And it'll post it to Facebook, right? Now, I'm actually might be adding LinkedIn to my network pretty soon. So I might also be posting those to LinkedIn pretty soon. But again, I did the work one time and I posted it out across all of the social networks. So there are a lot of great automation tools there. Buffer is kind of a manual where you manually, you know, schedule posts to get posted out. There's some more automated ones such as that I haven't tried yet. They're kind of on my to-do list. There's one called Meet Edgar, another one called Post Planner, that basically those can you can create like a bucket of social media posts and it'll just kind of like pick from the bucket and post for you automatically. Those seem like cool tools. I haven't played with those at all. I do recommend Buffer. It's really great. It's a good tool. Other ones, I think Hootsuite is another one that allows you to kind of manage stuff. I haven't really utilized that one as well. Some other notes that I see in the chat box is Trevor uses Adobe Spark. I've seen Adobe Spark. I've wanted to play with it. I just haven't had time to play with it. And he says that will, so if you're an Adobe fan already, if you're already in the Adobe ecosystem, check out Adobe Spark because apparently it can automate resizing of images and whatnot. So good shout out there, Trevor. Thank you very much for that. And Dennis says he can see click rates on Matomo. Yes. So Matomo, just like Google Analytics, you can see whether or not a user clicks through from a social network to your site. Or you can use, Bitly or something like that if you Bitly URLs. Also, if you're using Buffer will automatically track clicks on posts that you post with Buffer, right? So you can kind of see some, tools with analytics there. But again, that's not going to help you. I think a lot of people, that follow me on social, they see a particular alert, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, and then they just open up Safari and go to my site. right? So stuff like that is hard to translate, whether or not, someone saw my post and just manually went to my website. I know a lot of people that do that, right? They didn't actually click on the link. So, but yes, there's a lot of ways of doing analytic tracking. So to wrap up, I had 3 questions I hoped I wanted to solve today. Is how do you get the word out about your site? So social media integration with social tags and all that stuff that we talked about at the beginning today. It's not about you creating a social media following. It's about other users discovering your content and making it easier for when people share your websites online that they can better notice your site and maybe get more enticed to click on it to visit, right? So it's about enriching your social media experience when other people share your website, okay? Obviously, you can build a social media following, and that's a way of getting users as well. That's probably a topic for an entire live stream unto itself. I gave it like 5 minutes today, so not much. Next is, let's see. How do you get people to go to your site? Well, I think I've kind of answered that one as well. And how do you spread the word without Twitter or Facebook? And, all 3 of those questions have to do with social media tags. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a Twitter account or a Facebook account. I recommend you do have a Facebook page, just so that, people can maybe find it. It's just another way to people find you. And then you can kind of fill in that FB admins tabs in the social media, and you can fill in the Twitter account handle so that, it's linked to an actual account. And then, use something like Buffer. You can stream and kind of, automate your posts. So you can post into Buffer and Buffer will post all the social accounts for you. I understand not everyone really wants to manage social media accounts. So if you don't have to. That's level 2. Level 1 is just getting all those social tags, maybe some share buttons if you want, onto the site so that people can actively share your pages. It's about enabling people to share your websites. And I hope you got a lot out of that today. So I think we wrapped up today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's live stream. And yeah, thanks for coming. If you haven't already joined us on Fridays, we do really wide open hangouts, very open format. It's not a one-way conversation like these live streams. It's very interactive. If you've ever attended my RapWeaver conference, it's kind of like the hallway tracks in my conference where, it's video chat. We have dozens of people from all over the world join, men and women from all around the world, from Hawaii to Germany to London to the UK to France to all kinds of places, Australia, right? We get people from all over the world joining in and just having a good time talking about RapidWeaver and all kinds of stuff. So we'd love to have you on Fridays. Hopefully see you then. And until then, we'll talk to you over on the Weaver Space community. Thank you very much for attending. Hopefully you're enjoying these live streams. Let us know. So take care. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.